Good morning, everyone. It's 11 o'clock, so we'll just give a couple minutes, let some other people join, and then we'll get started. So thanks for holding on. Okay, wait a couple minutes, so we'll just go ahead and get started, and then people can jump on when they are able to. So just good morning, and thank you for joining our webinar series, The Journey to a Post-COVID-19 Economy Through Digital Transformation in the Insurance Industry. My name is Kevin Keys, and I'm an account executive here at Navient with a focus on insurance. Prior to joining Navient, I was in insurance for over 17 years. I worked for multiple carriers, as well as spent some time on the agency side. And as you can see, I achieved the CPCU designation, and I'm the current education chair of the Cleveland, Ohio CPCU chapter. And just for quick notes, for today's webinar, everyone will be muted as the presentation is being recorded, but please feel free to type any questions or comments you have in the chat box, and I'll be sure to address them. So as I said, this is a webinar series, and this is the third part of that series. We'll be talking about automation and content management. And the agenda today will be about intelligent automation, content management, and a solution known as OnBase Workflow. So just briefly, when we talk about digital transformation, we're really talking about using technology to modify and create new processes to get a better return on experience for our customers, and most importantly, creating a new business culture. And just real quick to talk about business culture, this is actually really key when you're kind of starting out on your journey to digital transformation. And the reason is because when you go through this transformation, it does take up a lot of time and resources. And if you haven't addressed the business culture side of things and got everybody on board for this journey, it could and most likely will lead to a lot of pain down the road. And before we kind of jump into really more about the digital transformation side of things, I think it's important just that we take a moment to talk about what are the challenges facing insurance. And these were challenges faced before COVID, and will certainly be there after COVID as well. And the big three really are talent, legacy systems, and innovation. When we look at talent, the big issues are you have the baby boomers retiring and leaving insurance with their knowledge. Younger generations don't see insurance as a viable career. And on top of all that, IT professionals consistently rank insurance to the bottom of their desired industries to land in. Then you look at legacy systems. We're kind of all aware of what the issues are with legacy systems and insurance. And then obviously we talked about younger people and IT professionals don't really want to come into an industry that's still using legacy systems. But then also the fact is when we look at innovation, it becomes much harder to innovate when you're trying to innovate off of legacy systems and give that return on experience customers expect today. So that's kind of, when we talk about those challenges, that's what this whole kind of webinar series has been really about, is addressing those challenges with digital transformation and how it will look in a post-COVID-19 economy. And that's really where we come to when we think about digital transformation. And what we've talked about before already in our 2 previous webinars are processes, modernization, integration, obviously today about automation and content management, and then finally return on experience. So if we talk about processes, when we talked about it, we talked about something known as process intelligence. And we've talked about how using your data to get an unbiased and a non-subjective view of your processes so you can begin the digital transformation. And as that statement shows there, and really important about the topic today is you never want to automate a bad process. And during that webinar, we talked about a solution known as Abby Timeline that can help you really get that unbiased, non-subjective view of your processes. And then we talked about modernizing and integrating your systems. And for that webinar, we talked about, Highland Cloud, a conversion that would get you from your legacy systems to the cloud, known as F3. But one of the other big points that we talked about is data when it's siloed. And we see that a lot in large enterprises that have been around for a while. They keep adding on and on and on, and eventually they realize that the data has become siloed and it's not very easy to talk to each department. And this really becomes an issue, especially when we're talking about automating their processes, because when the data is siloed, it usually means employees have to jump from one system to another, and they're not able to find the information they need easily, which leads them to not be able to automate those processes easily. So that's kind of what we're going to be discussing today when it comes to automation and content management. Just kind of a generic idea or generic definition of automation. It really is the idea of taking the rules you have in place that lead to tasks needing to be done that are really part of an overall process. And automation is about looking for ways to use technology to automate those tasks to basically make that process more efficient. And when we think of content management, it's about making sure your content can be easily found and is properly stored so that you can then build your rules, tasks, and processes off of that correct content that you can find, and then you can begin your automation. So that's where intelligent automation really comes into play. And this is really the heart of successful digital transformation. And it's about automating your day-to-day workflows. The idea behind intelligent automation is really the ability to digitize your forms so that you can easily be accessed so you can automate your routine processes and measure their effectiveness. And then really once you've done this, you then have that data you can use to then start reducing the pain points and then drive genuine change and improve your business performance. And really and truthfully, without intelligent automation, it truly does mean you're still using your manual processes. And the problem with that is that it leads you to be easily disrupted as well as becoming irrelevant in a very real way. So when we think of intelligent automation, it really comes down to 4 key technologies. The first one being intelligent capture. This is about identifying and extracting information from documents automatically, and that can either be a digital format or a paper application that's many of you deal with. Next one would be workflow automation, and this defines a series of tasks based on a process and automatically acts on those tasks without the need for human intervention or manual steps. Third type of technology is machine learning, and this is a branch of artificial intelligence where systems learn from data and patterns to act on unanticipated variations with minimal human intervention. Great example of this is detecting fraud in insurance claims. And then the fourth type of technology is robotic process automation. And this allows organizations to automate tasks that are simple, repetitive, and have very little variances. And so when we look at automation, what are the benefits of intelligent automation? Well, first off, increasing business value. Intelligent automation can help you reduce costs, improve your speed, accuracy, and transparency. It can help you improve the employee experience by minimizing repetitive and manual tasks, as well as removing those bottlenecks, leading to employees to focus more of their time on more important tasks. And then for intelligent automation, it really helps improve the customer experience because it really is able to get that right information to the right user at the right time, which leads to a faster and more accurate response to the customer, leading to a better experience for them. So when thinking about intelligent automation in insurance, what are some of the examples? Well, one would be claims processing. When a first notice of loss comes in, automation has the ability to extract the information, put it into your claim system, and then actually has the ability to say it's automatically approved, decline it, maybe send it to an adjuster for more information, have them remove it, or even send it to the agent to request more information. Another area is policy management. This would be an example of, say, a policyholder calls your phone line, leaves a message and says, I want to add this employee or this driver to my commercial auto policy, gives a name, driver's license number, date of birth, and whatever other information you request. Automation would be able to take that information, put it in the system, say order an MVR, review the MVR, and either have the driver automatically added or send it off to somebody for further review. Third example would be regulatory compliance. This is just about ensuring the accuracy of the data and maintaining a complete log of actions. And then finally, automation in insurance would be for like underwriting. And this can really help with data collection from both internal and external sites. Can really help with assessing loss runs, whether it's at the quote level or policy level, and also help with reviewing claim history on a renewal policy. So if instead of having an underwriter look at every renewal that comes up, automation can just take that renewal, go through the system, see if there's any claims, and if there's none, just push it through, or if there's just one or two, kind of decide whether or not it should be reviewed by an underwriter or not, but really just figuring out ways to have that less human contact. That's really the key of automation. And so when we talk about automation, we also really want to talk about content management, because this is a really important part of automation. As I mentioned before, you really need to know where that content is to be able to automate those processes. And when you think about this type of situation where you have remote offices, file shares, emails, paper documents, that data and that content can be scattered across both physical and electronic locations. And that's where data becomes siloed. And when you have that, employees waste valuable time searching for that information and also have no easy way to ensure that what they're actually working off of is the most up-to-date information. So that's why content management is so key when you're looking to automate processes. And that's where a system like an enterprise content management system like OnBase can really come into play, because it has the ability to have company-wide content management over your multiple systems, and uses intelligent capture tools to really be able to classify and manage that data and put it where it needs to be, where you want it to be, so that your employees can easily find it. And so kind of just an example of how content management will work is you have, say, an Accord app comes in, whether it's email, paper, fax, whatever, it comes in, it would go into a system like OnBase, it would use that intelligent capture tool, in this case OCR, which is optical character recognition, which is trained to basically scan that application and look for certain parts on that application to pull the data from, gets that, is able to classify it, and once it's classified and stored to where you want it to be, you can then manage it, which of course then leads to the ability to automate it, which leads us to a solution known as OnBase Workflow. So OnBase Workflow really is a solution to automate your business processes. It's designed to help employees move work through the process with efficiency and accuracy. And it is based on the idea that you use your predefined business rules that are part of your processes, and then you set up tasks based on those rules leading to automation. And then, some other points about workflow, it's also based on your repetitive and rule-based decisions. It's versatile and flexible, and as a result can enhance your efficiency. The other key part about OnBase Workflow is that it's a point-and-click configuration solution, and it does that by using rules and actions, allowing business processes to be quickly automated. And really importantly, it has the ability to have not really a lot of need for coding or programming to be involved whenever you want to make a change to workflow. So just to kind of give you an idea of how OnBase Workflow would work. So say you have a commercial quote, it's a property quote, comes into OnBase, OnBase looks at it, and then it compares it to the rules and what the rules that you've already set up. And so like in this case, you have say a 5,000 square foot building. It's just a simple retail type of a business, no major issues with it, kind of a vanilla type of quote. OnBase goes through it and says, you know what, we're just gonna go ahead and issue this one. But say you put in OnBase and you have a rule that says, you know what, every time a property comes up and it's a building and it's 15,000 square feet or larger, we want it to go to an underwriter, specifically an underwriter with a level 2 authority. So OnBase sends that quote to that underwriter, underwriter takes it, reviews it, and if everything falls within their type of authority, they're able to approve it. So in this example, say it was a manufacturer, and the manufacturer goes, like they look through it, everything looks good to go. Underwriter says everything checks, sends it to OnBase again. OnBase makes sure all their everything they did falls within their authority, goes ahead, issues it. But let's just say that underwriter 2 decides, you know what, I want to add a debit onto this policy, and their authority only says they have a 10% authority to do a debit, but they decide they want a 12%. Well, in most cases, especially the processes I've ever dealt with when I was in underwriting, was the underwriter had to then take it either physically or through the computer, send it to their supervisor and notify them that, hey, I need you to review this. Well, with OnBase, because the debit is already outside of their authority, it automatically then gets sent to their supervisor as soon as that underwriter 2 is done with it. So that's really what the whole OnBase workflow is about. But one of the benefits too is that once you go through this process enough, you might start seeing like, okay, I'm sending all these 15,000 square foot buildings to my underwriter 2 level, but what I'm seeing is say 15 to 20% of them are just office buildings or 2-story office buildings with, you know, the proper means of egress. So instead of wasting my underwriter 2 level underwriter wasting their time looking at this risk, I'm going to change my rules and just send it to the underwriter 1. And so OnBase, when they get it, they'll be able to read it. The rules will be updated and say if it's an office with 15,000 square feet, 2 means of egress, send it to the underwriter 1 instead of the underwriter 2. Goes to underwriter 1, they do what they have to do. If everything falls within their authority, OnBase will just go ahead and issue it. If not, goes to the supervisor. And then to take it even one step further, you look at what the underwriter 1 is doing and you realize, well, wait a minute, these 15,000 square feet, a certain percent of them, they're fairly new, they have sprinklers, proper protection class, everything checks out, their claim history is good. Well, instead of having the underwriter 1 look at it, why not just get it issued? So you basically were able to do, through simple point-click configuration, amending the rules, you took a risk that was being looked at from an underwriter 2 to then being issued. And that was just because you were able to see what the process was and able to see what was going on during that whole process and be able to make changes to be able to issue that policy or that quote much, much faster. So that really is some of the real benefits of automation with OnBase Workflow. And first one being deliver the return on experience the customer wants. So in this case, when you're talking about, you know, going from a 15,000 square foot office being looked at by an underwriter 2 to possibly being issued, the amount of time that saves, you know, you're probably going from anywhere from 48 hours to less than an hour. And the benefit of that is, you know, when you talk about your customers, in that situation, it's not just the person who's purchasing it, but it's also your independent agent. And so if your independent agent starts seeing like, hey, I can get these back much, much faster for company A than company B, I know from my experience on the agency side, you start delivering it to company A much more often. So they're able to see that you're able to get those type of quotes into your system, be able to issue them, hopefully bind them more, obviously increase profit, increase the number of policies bound. What this also does though is when you talk about changing the rules from that underwriter 2 to the underwriter 1, it frees up your underwriter 2s to start focusing more on complicated work. So in that case, you know, now your underwriter 2s have much more time on their hands. They can start probably looking at, you know, risks that maybe have a little bit more meat on them. So you can start looking at, well, you know, now I freed up my underwriter 2s. What if I start promoting? I start going after, you know, manufacturers with a little bit more types of different things they're doing. And you can start looking at that type of stuff because you've taken away, or you basically have moved those vanilla type of risks to be automated and pushed through the system, so you're not taking up too much of their time. Best part is because you're able to have those rules, like I showed you with the sending it directly to the supervisor, you're able to improve that compliance. You know that your protocols are being followed. Again, so it enables you to start looking at some of those risks that have a little bit more meat on the bone. And on top of that, when you have people looking at different types of risk and start freeing up more time, you're able to innovate faster. And so those are really some of the big benefits with automation from OnBase Workflow. And just kind of one point I want to make too about OnBase Workflow as well is configurable. You know, I mentioned before that OnBase Workflow is point and click. And what that really means is that, you know, at the beginning of the webinar, I talked about how the talent issue in insurance and how insurance can really address that. And when you have IT talent and trying to attract it, it was very difficult pre-COVID, but now especially after COVID, and the fact that technology is becoming even more and more important, not just for insurance, but the economy as a whole, the ability to attract IT talent is going to become harder, it's become more costly. And to have a system that's configurable really means to be able to have your non-IT staff to start to be able to do those IT things. So like when I say point and click, what it really means is little to no coding. So you can actually train somebody, train like an underwriter 2 or an underwriter 3 to be able to go into the system, make the changes, change the rules to be able to say, okay, I'm not going to take this office of 15,000 square feet to the underwriter 2, I'm going to move it to the underwriter 1. Advantage of that is you don't have to send a ticket to your IT department and hope it gets done within a few months or 6 months, which I know I've seen. But you're able to just keep it in your department and make those changes. So it really helps you to be able to go to market faster, make those changes much, much faster to better serve your customers, whether it's the policyholder or your independent agents. So just kind of wrap up here, you know, we talk about automation and content management and what's going on in the world. You know, COVID-19 obviously changed, well, everything. And, you know, we're going through that whole change right now, but eventually it will end. The crisis will come to an end. But the economy that's going to come out of it will be different. And the challenges and risks faced by those both in insurance and your customers are going to be drastically different. And digital transformation really is necessary to be able to face those new challenges and risks. And automation and content management really are at the heart of that transformation. And like I said in an earlier slide, you know, without automation, you're still dealing with manual processes, in which case you're at risk of being disrupted as well as becoming irrelevant, which is a huge issue. So when we talk about digital transformation and that journey you're going through, this is where Navient really comes into play. You know, we have years of experience working with those in insurance and helping organizations in the industry along their journey to digital transformation. And, you know, throughout my career in insurance, I always heard the phrase trusted advisor and how both the carrier and the agents wanted to be that trusted advisor to their customers. Well, you in insurance need a trusted advisor to help you along this digital transformation journey, and that's where Navient can come into play. So just a reminder, our next webinar is going to be about return on experience. So just thank you for joining me this morning. Let's see if there's any questions or comments. Nope, no questions at this time. So you'll be back a few more minutes of your day. And again, thank you for joining us. If you want to reach out to me personally, you can send me an email, give me a call, or you can check us out at navient.com. So thank you and have a good day.